I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it! I have had a feeling since Tuesday, and so has my family, that something was very off about this election and the results. We just couldn't quite pinpoint it. We just couldn't put our finger on it. And shout out to all the people who have made videos with information and
Yes, the love can handle it. This is dangerous to our democracy. This is the same song I saw in 2020. Now the same liberals are doing just that. They're accusing Elon Musk and Trump for doing what they accuse Republicans of doing in 2020. Like you can see here, totally insane.
Joe Biden's decision to run for president again was a catastrophic mistake. It just was. And he and his inner circle, they refused to believe the polls. They refused to believe he was unpopular. They refused to acknowledge until very late that anyone could be upset about inflation. And they just kept telling us that his presidency was historic and it was the greatest economy ever. We just heard him again say that it's the greatest economy ever. Clearly, 70, 80% of voters don't believe that. They don't believe that about their own personal financial situation, but they just keep telling us that. And then after the debate, the Biden people told us that the polls were fine. And Biden was still the strongest candidate. They were privately telling reporters at the time that Kamala Harris couldn't win. So they were shivving Kamala Harris to reporters while they told everyone else, not a time for an open process, and his vice president can't win, so he's the strongest candidate. Then we find out, when the Biden campaign becomes the Harris campaign, that the Biden campaign's own internal polling at the time when they were telling us he was the strongest candidate showed that Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes. That's what their own internal polling said.
There were polls showing 80% of voters thought Joe Biden was too old to get a second term before the debate. And then we all watched the debate. And then in the last few weeks, Biden was campaigning and he said, we need to lock Trump up. He created a controversy over whether Trump supporters were garbage. He said, the weird thing about slapping Trump on the ass. Like his moments on the campaign trail weren't flawless either.
You cannot.
It's absurd. It's
We
absurd.
can't-
I'm trying to be generous here.
I'm not. I'm done being
I
generous.
want to stay for the record. I also think all the TV money ads should be.
It should be rethought too.
More importantly, the idea that Joe Biden was going to do better in this race than Kamala Harris is on its face absurd.
Yes, at this time, the Democrat Party is divided. There are a lot of people who go with Nancy Pelosi. There are some who go with Obama, some with Kamala Harris, Biden. And this is what will happen throughout these 4 years. And I'm ready to cover this every single day. Taking a look at what is currently going on, Nancy Pelosi coming out to say Biden is to be blamed. Liberals are now looking Nancy Pelosi different. They are going off on her like you betray Biden. I watched a clip on MSNBC today, which I'm going to show you, extremely concerning. They are angry with Nancy Pelosi. According to this article, MSNBC Simon absolutely eviscerated Nancy Pelosi for betraying Biden and fomenting his very public demise. On MSNBC, the weekend, Sanders Townshend denounced Pelosi for publicly signaling that Biden needed to make a decision on leaving the race following his disastrous debate performance in a moment that turned the heat up on Biden dramatically ahead of his eventually withdrawing from the race, Pelosi told Morning Joe on July 10.
I asked you what the relationship was between Biden world and Kamala Harris world, and you told me it was bad. It was bad predating the campaign. Where does Obama world fit in this? There's. I don't want to break the Democratic Party into these, three fiefdoms, because there's probably more. Nancy Pelosi is a huge power player, but Barack Obama, the Obama world, is a huge player. How do they fit in the tension or the happiness of Democrats?
That's a really good question. I want to point out that they waited 3 days. Michelle and Barack Obama waited 3 days to endorse Kamala Harris. It was a silence heard around the world. And prior to Biden's endorsement that no one really anticipated, they were vetting people like Mark Kelly. Kamala Harris wasn't at the top of the ticket. So Biden's endorsement of Harris caught a lot of people off guard, even the chieftains of the party. I really think it was a big It was a big F you to everyone. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. I think I'm getting a vivid picture.
I didn't finish the word.
Specifically when it comes to why or the effect and perhaps the plan on when Joe Biden endorsed Kamala Harris. Really interesting insight, Lindy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lindy Lee.
Yes, I need to know who was actually behind Kamala campaign. Because when you look at how they use this 1 billion, crazy. Just Beyonce appearing on that stage that day for 5 minutes, 5 million. I was shocked to hear that. Then you can calculate all the amount of money they spent just that particular week before the election. They spent around 20 million given to these top celebrities. Why should you be doing this?
You're interested in having had an open primary.
Yeah.
And as you know, it would have uncovered her weaknesses, her strengths. It would have tested her electability. That's what the primary system is intended to do. And it would have also perhaps resulted in a nominee that wasn't so tied to an unpopular president.
Well, it's interesting that you say those things. I don't think that any review of the election should be predicated on weaknesses, but strengths of Kamala Harris. She gave people hope. She caused a great deal of excitement in all of this. It's about winning. You don't have to tell me that. But the fact is, we're set up for what comes next.
Should there have been an open primary, though?
Well, see, we thought that there would be. The anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, that there would be an open primary. And as I say, Kamala may have, I think she would have done well in that and been stronger going forward. But we don't know that. That didn't happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that really made it almost impossible to have a primary at that time. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different. But we're not here to agonize. We're here again to organize on how we go forward. We're going to have fresh, new talent, perhaps Kamala among them, that's up to her, to go forward for the next election. But I think people need a little rest from elections right now. We're still fighting to win the House, so we're not finished with our race. But it's a pretty exciting road ahead, and time goes by quite quickly.
I did a lot of videos about this. Nancy Pelosi just confirmed that Biden endorsing Kamala at that time was just to close up the door. They wanted an open primary so people could decide who they want. So taking up Kamala was Biden's decision. By just endorsing her, everybody was forced to. If you remember, Obama was the last person to endorse her. It just confirmed what we said. I did a couple of videos on this topic over and over, and now look at Nancy Pelosi just confirming what we all knew.
You got to be right now. There's absolutely no way that I'm an election denier. I am now going to be a denier. You cannot convince me that many people that hate Donald Trump, that piece of, there's no way that he got the popular vote. He got in House and the Senate and the presidency. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
Because with all due respect to our wonderful people on Capitol Hill, they don't have the answers.
Well, Nancy, let me just be clear. I'm going to say it. She ain't going to say it. Nancy Pelosi, everybody talks about how the Speaker Emerita, she's so strategic. She can count. And yes, she did all of that when she was the Speaker in Congress. But my question is, where is your calculator now? Because Democrats are about to lose the dang on House. And for her to sit on this podcast, we'll play the sound about how, it's up to the, I don't deal in presidential politics. But she helped orchestrate. I'm going to say it.
She did this cycle.
She played in presidential politics this cycle, and she helped orchestrate the very public demise of the president.
That's right.
And thank God for Joe Biden that he came out and endorsed his VP, because these people wanted an open primary.
And for where? And when were we going to have an open primary between July 21st when he stepped down and August 20th when the convention was going to happen? When was that going to happen? And anybody who's suggesting that clearly wasn't looking at a calendar.
Well,
neither were they familiar with
I'm looking for the magic wand that apparently the Democrats on Capitol Hill think that we have. I surely hope that Democrats eke out the majority in the House. But if they don't, I think the people that helped, the people that had so much to say about the president and the vice president earlier this summer, I think that those those people need to take a back seat. I think the strategists that obviously fleeced the vice president's campaign and made a whole bunch of money, okay, and get no money to the turnout, they need to take a back seat, okay? They got to get the Robbie Mook treatment. Robbie Mook lost in 2016, and then he was up in Harvard and just came back. Goodbye.
And listen, they got to talk to the folks who are actually doing work on the ground, who were underfunded and overstressed, but who were doing the work on the ground, talking to voters. We need their opinions. We need to talk to the voters to really do a postmortem.
Can I add just really quickly? And the Democrats have to stop playing the game of representation as a cover, right, for economic policies that are really just simply benefiting the top rich. So you can put out a woman, you can put out a person of color and think that's all you need to do. There has to be some substantive policies behind that can actually affect the lives of everyday ordinary people. We keep playing the damn game on the Republican field. Let's change the terms of the debate and stop triangulating and playing politics at the margins.
Yes, I believe you've seen this. Kamala Harris raised $1 billion. Yeah. They are 20 million in debt, implying that money did not even reach the people in ground. Where did it go? This should be Kamala Harris' fault. Yeah. They should put the blame on her. This name calling here and there, Kamala Harris should be responsible, because I believe all these people showing off, giving Oprah 1 million, giving this, they all decided to do that.
This is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Kamala Harris. I'm like, I bet there's a person in there. I bet I can get to that person.
Yeah.
I wanted to find that person. I don't want to hear all the speeches. I don't want to hear, I was raised middle class. I don't want to hear any of that shit.
She's a roller skater. You know that?
No, I would love to find that out.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her about all kinds of shit. I literally said, like, because there was a few restrictions of things they didn't want to talk about. But I said, I go get her in here. Like, whatever you want to talk about. And they want to know if I edit. I'm like, there's not going to be any editing. There's no editing.
They are tired of Barack Obama showing up, saying the same thing. Michelle Obama doing the same thing. At this point, Democrats are confused. They don't even know who to blame.
When Biden refused to step aside and not run again, he was supposed to be that bridge. He backed off on that promise due to arrogance. And then he drops out after a catastrophic debate performance. And they set Kamala Harris up to fail.
No. No. You're saying 3 months wasn't long enough?
It was too long. I mean, not anybody. And I do not think she is the perfect candidate. I agree.
It is crazy.
But you think, if you want to
that all of these people who believe that their lives are, that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted fella.
Against Trump.
I don't care if they write that.
So, with that, I'm going to shake it off.
Figure out a way to say thank you.
No matter how you disagree with someone politically, you should never pray for this.
Elected.
He's such an absolute prick. I can't stand him.
Hey there. How are you doing? If you watch this show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night.
What will the rest of us be doing on day one? Now's the time to stand in solidarity with our friends, with our neighbors.
Well,
Hey there in Chicago, Mel here. The voice crying out from the wilderness of Malibu.